Hello, everybody. We'll be kicking off in 1 minute. We're just going to give people a chance to join. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our free Microsoft Teams training. I'm Hugh Valentine, the Managing Director of Valto. I'll be handing over to my colleague, Dougie Wood, who is a senior consultant and has a lot of experience with deploying Microsoft Teams. The session today will take around an hour and a half to go through and cover off the Teams components. And then at the end, we'll have a 30-minute session for questions and answers. As we go through the presentation, if you have questions, you can raise those. And as I said at the end of the presentation, we'll then have the opportunity to go through and answer those questions. So I'll now hand over to Dougie, who will kick off and go through what we're going to cover today. Thank you all.
Thanks, Hugh. So hi guys, my name's Dougie. As Hugh said, I'm the one of the senior consultants at Valto. I get involved in a lot of kind of Teams deployments as well as end user training as well. So today's session, I'm just going to flip to the next slide for our agenda. So today's session, we're going to have a live demonstration of Microsoft Teams, and this is going to be looking at all the different elements of Teams, team chat, direct chat, and document storage. This should roughly last about 1.5 hours or so, give or take, and then what we're trying to do then is allow plenty of time for any questions that you might have. Please feel free to use the Q&A, sort of asking questions inside this live webinar, and at the end we'll then come through and we'll answer as many questions as we can, and we can always follow up with any additional questions afterwards as well. We'll then be sort of recapping any sort of quick tips and looking at things like workshops and other kind of things that we can potentially offer afterwards. And then also we'll be looking at any upcoming events. So this is one event of a series. So feel free to subscribe and join our future sessions, and then we'll have a Q&A. So any questions which come through throughout the session, we'll then recap. And if there's anything that you want me to sort of review or demonstrate again, then please feel free to ask a question as we kind of go through. So the current situation that we're sort of facing at the moment means that a lot of people are working from home a lot more. Our entire workforce at Valto are already using Microsoft Teams. We've been using it for quite a long time. Well, we got started with it right at the early stages of it. So we've got a lot of experience not only helping deploy it for people, but also using it ourselves. As an organization, we're quite keen on sort of flexible working and working from home. So for most of our guys, they're usually used to working from home at least 2 days a week anyway. So due to sort of current events where a lot more people are working from home, it's not been a huge shock to our system to work from home full time. So we've got all the experience of using Microsoft Teams to leverage. So hopefully, as we kind of go through today, I'll be giving you some real world examples of what we're using Teams for as well, and hopefully you can then pick up on some tips about how you can use them in your day-to-day work life as well. So next, I'm going to jump straight in actually to the Microsoft Teams demo. So I'm going to jump straight through to that. Now, Microsoft Teams essentially it is one of the Office 365 cloud products. So it means we can actually access it on any device from any sort of number of browsers. Just like this. So we can access it by going to Google and just typing in Office 365. So if I go to Google, type in Office 365, you'll then see the very top link is office.com. And when I go to office.com, this is where I'll see all of my Office 365 products.
Hey,
Now,
Dougie, we can only see the presentation at the moment. Sorry to step in.
Okay. Obviously shared the wrong screen.
We're good.
Very good. Good stuff. So just to quickly recap on that, we can get access to Teams by going to Google and typing in Office 365. The first link, which is at the top of Google, is office.com. And when we go to office.com, I'm already signed in, I'm already logged in, so it's going to take me straight to the home page. But if I wasn't logged in, I would have to enter my email address and my password, which would then bring me to office.com. I can then see a number of all the different products I have access to within inside of Office 365, but one of them is Teams. So when I click on Teams, it will give me kind of two options the first time that I come to use this. I can either choose to open in the browser, which is what I'm doing here, or I can choose to open it as an app. So I've got an app installed on my computer and I can open up the Teams app. Both through the browser and through the app are pretty much the exact same experience. There's not a huge amount of difference. The app is pretty cool because it means when you first open up your computer, the app will automatically open and you'll see this interface. It also means you'll get like push notifications and things like that. So as you get messages and people start responding to things you're posting in Teams, you'll also get those instant kind of pop-up messages appearing on your computer to let you know that you've got a notification. So this is the first thing that we see when we jump into Teams. So across the top, we can, where it says Microsoft Teams, we can see we've got a search bar. On the left-hand side, we've got some navigational buttons, and the default tab that it selects on the left-hand side of the navigation is Teams. So this is what we see on the left-hand side, is all the different teams that we are a member of. Now, teams can be split out into multiple different things. Typically, you would expect an organization would split their teams out per department or service. So you can expect things like one for finance, one for HR, marketing. All those different departments would likely have their own team, but you can also expect that they could be split out per customer. So if you wanted to sort of collaborate, store documents, have conversations around a particular customer or project, you can also do that as well. So you can also have additional kind of teams there. Now we can see all of our teams we have access to on the left-hand side. I can also see I've got hidden teams here. So just for my own sake of sort of keeping things neat and tidy, I can choose to show and hide what teams I see on the left by selecting the three dots and selecting to hide specific teams. And if I want to bring them back into my Your Teams view, which is like my day-to-day view of teams I see all the time, all I need to do is click on the three dots and click on Show, and then that's then going to bring it back into my Your Teams view, which is the teams I use on a day-to-day basis. So over a period of time, you'll quite often sort of collect and become a member of quite a lot of different teams, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use those teams on a day-to-day basis. So I'm actually a member of quite a few different teams, both internal and external. So I only use a handful of them on a day-to-day basis. So I'm only going to show the ones that I want inside my Your Teams. When you select a team, the first thing it's going to do is select this general channel. Now, by default, every team will have one channel that's called General. And now channels offer splitting out not only conversations, so per channel we have these kind of post chat rooms, we also split them out by files. And we can have multiple channels inside of a team. And we'll come back to sort of channels in a little bit more detail afterwards. Once we're inside our channel, we can see there are three default tabs. So per team, per channel, we end up with posts, files, and wiki. Post is the first tab which is going to open up, and this essentially is where we're going to have our conversations with our team and we're going to be collaborating with the rest of our team. Across the bottom, we can see we've got this little input box where we can put some text, and this is where I can then message the rest of my team. So this is where I can say, hi, this is a message for you. Now, when I post this message, although everyone who's a member of my team will be able to see this post, no one's actually been notified by it. So no one's actually aware that this exists. a member of the team could come into this chat and see that this post is on the wall, but they've not actually been notified. No one's actually been prompted that that's the case. If I wanted to notify somebody from my team that there's a particular tab, a particular post, I can use the @ symbol and start typing in someone's name or selecting them from that drop down and say, this is a message for you. Now, this might be, say, for example, somebody's called and they've missed a call, like a customer's call for Chris, and he wasn't around, he's on lunch, and I wanted to message him and say, let him know that somebody's called for him. This is a great way of sort of tagging them in a sort of communal area where everyone can see that I've made that notification for Chris. However, what if I wanted to tag the whole team? It would be very difficult if I wanted to get everyone's attention if I had to go through and @tag every last person who's inside my team, because we could have teams which have got tens, if not hundreds of different people inside of them. So rather than typing out everyone's name, what I can do is I can use the @ symbol and start typing out the name of the team that I'm currently inside of. So at the moment, I'm inside my test team for sort of demonstration purposes. But imagine this was the finance team or the HR team or something like that. So I'm just going to type in test team because that's the name of the team I'm inside of. And I can say this is a message for everyone. And then when I post that, everyone will receive a notification inside that activity center, which we'll cover off as we move through further down the line. And we can see people can already start responding directly to this. And I can see that the comments are coming through. We can also see on the right hand side, we've got this like little symbol. Now, as we start creating more of these posts as we kind of go through, you'll see these different symbols on the right hand side will start to appear. So what this symbol means is it's kind of like three little people inside of a red circle, and it's meaning that this is a @ tag for the whole team, which means it's aimed at the whole team. If this was a message directly aimed at me, so I'm just going to @tag Chris and say, please @tag message me. If there was a message which was directly towards me, say for example for Chris, he would see that there'd be a red @ symbol that would appear on the right hand side, and you'd be able to see that he would know when he was looking at this that this was a message directly aimed at him. There are other ways that we can also tag. So there we go. So Chris is now just @tag me, and I can see here now that this is a message which is aimed purely at me inside of my team, and this is a message which is aimed at the wider team. There are other ways we can format our posts as well. So when we click on this little format button across the bottom, we'll then see a bunch of different options will then appear. So across the top, typical things you can expect, things like making things bold or italic, underlined, typical things you can expect for formatting. But what else is really useful is that we can also add subjects to our threads. So these posts that I've been putting in so far is not really the way that you would work on a day-to-day basis, because it would get very messy if you were putting sort of messages backwards and forwards. It's not really like a WhatsApp sort of message where people post and then sort of have to scroll back through and find where someone replied to them. The way to work with this is actually to create threads by clicking on the format button and then providing a subject. So this might be anything that we're talking about. It might be about a particular customer that we're having a conversation about. It might be about a particular project that we're having a conversation about. And then I can @tag everyone in this. So again, I'm going to @tag the test team and say, this thread is to discuss project X. And then when I post that, we'll then see not only have we got the we've got the symbol for letting us know that this is aimed at the whole team, we've also got this subject line here called with project X, where we can store all of our conversations. So I can post in here, tag someone. Whoops, too eager to hit enter then. When is the deadline for this project? And then we can store all of our conversations and all of our sort of comments inside of this thread, which we can neatly tuck away. So I can always go in, and if I had a thread per project, I can go in and I can see the conversations which are happening for that project at that point in time. And I know that all those conversations are in one place, so I'm not losing any information anywhere along the line. Other things we can do with formatting. So previously what we've been looking at is the conversations template. So this is what these conversations look like. There are others. So, for example, we can use this announcement template, which gives us this big bold header across the top. So we might say something like Teams training today. I can then change the background color of this particular banner by clicking here, or I can even add my own image as a background, which is a great way of kind of getting attention to this particular post. So let's just quickly grab an image. We can select almost a focal point of where we wanted to sit on the page. Click done, and then we've got a nice background image showing up for us there. So I can say Teams training today, tag the team. And that's just posting it as a nice way of kind of seeing this particular post. Now, this is what they refer to as an announcement. So again, we get this kind of almost like a speakerphone kind of symbol that appears on the right-hand side. And again, as I'm scrolling through now, I'm seeing that there's all these different types of tags, and I can quickly identify what are messages which are aimed specifically to the team, what messages are specifically aimed at me, and which are announcements. So these could be replacing things like email newsletters and long sort of winded threads. These can be nice sort of posts that you can post directly inside of your team. Now, there are things you can do to combine with that. So typically when we sort of select announcement, I'm actually not an owner of this team, so this is grayed out. But if I was an owner of this team, there's also the ability to choose who can reply to this particular post. So if I was an owner of this team, I could select that only myself and other owners could respond to this particular post. Now, this is useful specifically if you're maybe as part of a much larger team or an org-wide level team where you've got hundreds of different people inside of there, and all you're wanting to do is post like almost like a news announcement, and you're not really expecting kind of responses and replies to it. You can disable those and turn those off. Other things that we do, so for ourselves on a day-to-day basis, the way my team works is we often put in a new thread every single day with today's date. So we'll put something like updates, and then we'll put the day's date, and then we'll sort of tag the team, call this the daily thread. And then what we use this for is for posting in all kind of updates which are happening on that day. And it's a nice, easy, neat way of seeing what's been happening during that week. So we can go back in and see if someone asks questions, if they're asking for support, if maybe a customer's called for them or anything like that. It keeps things in a nice, neat, orderly way rather than having posts flying all over the place. Other things we can do inside the formatting. So another sort of pretty cool one that we use is this important tag. So when we select the important tag, what you'll notice, you get a big bold important in red across the top. You also get the red line on the left-hand side. And then when we post this, we'll also get a big red exclamation mark, which appears on the right-hand side to show that this is an important message. Now, the way that we use this internally is we also have our own support desk, and we've got quite a lot of managed sort of customer support. And whenever, say, there's an issue with a particular customer, say, for example, one of their servers has gone down or something's happened, and we're expecting a lot of phone calls from the end users there, we want to make sure that all of our support team are fully aware of what's going on and they've got the latest updates to make sure that if a customer calls up, all of our engineers are on the same page and we all know exactly where we're up to. So on here, what we would do is we'd post something as important and would say customer A service outage, and then we would tag the team and say FYI, the customer's server has gone down. More info to follow. And now this thread can then be a live place that we're putting in updates. So if any phone calls come in and engineers can go in there and they can see what the latest update from the lead engineer that's running this particular support case would be posting in there. But also what we would combine with this is it's great that we can put in the updates about the outage and our engineers can see that. But as a team leader, how do I know that my team have actually seen this and acknowledged it and are actually aware of the latest information? So something that we twin with this is we also say, please like this post to show you have read it. And now when I send this and I post this, we get that big red exclamation mark that appears on the right hand side. But what we can also do is we can see people saying, please like this post to show you read it. So when people like this, what then happens is when we hover over, we can see a list of all the people who have liked this particular post. So it acts almost like a read receipt of this particular post. So I know exactly who has actually seen this, and I know who's got the latest updates. So that essentially covers off the sort of postings and the sort of threads element of things. Some questions that we've had before about sort of why people might sort of tag individual users inside of here rather than sort of using the direct messaging is because sometimes there's kind of conversations which are happening, which although they're not necessarily directed at somebody, it's almost like the ability to overhear a conversation. So because people are working from home and they're using this in sort of usually in isolation, the ability to post in here towards other people in a public forum means that it gives the opportunity that other people can see that and maybe pitch in all sort of ideas. So because you're not in the office at the moment, and I might be having a conversation with Chris out loud, and then Hugh hears that conversation and says, oh, do you know what? I know about this particular issue. I've seen this before, X, Y, Z. That can't happen when you're sort of working at home and in sort of isolation. And if I had a direct message with Chris, no one would ever have the opportunity to sort of overhear that conversation. So a great way of kind of explaining that and giving it as a metaphor is the reason why we tag people inside here rather than having direct messages is quite often to allow that opportunity for people to overhear almost that conversation and sort of pitch in with comments and feedback as and when they want to. So other tabs that we've got across the bottom that we can make posts with, we've got attaching documents. Now I'll come back to this in a little bit more detail afterwards, but essentially that's around posting kind of documents, whether it be from our own computer, from OneDrive or from Teams. We can basically provide a link inside here that we can collaborate documents. Other things as well, so typically with all these kind of social media things now, you can expect things like emojis that you can post. Things like GIFs, as well as a little meme creator as well. So you can select your own funny little stickers and you can edit them. Teams, training, oh yeah. And these are funny little ways of sort of posting sort of updates and things like that and keeping people engaged. And especially at the moment where people are working from home, they're feeling isolated, having this sort of level of sort of like having a bit of a fun, having a bit of laugh and chit chat is good for general kind of morale. And you tend to find people use this a lot when they first start using it and then only use it every now and again in the real world. The next tab we've got here is the Meet Now tab. Now, when I click on Meet Now, I'm not actually going to go fully into this because I think it will actually sort of kick me out of this sort of live demonstration. But essentially what the Meet Now will allow me to do is have conversations directly with my team. Now, there are two different types of meetings that you can have with teams. You've got team specific meetings, which is what I'm looking at the moment here. So when I click on that, I can basically start a new meeting. I can bring in members of my team into this meeting, and we can sort of share our screens. We can share webcams and audio and things like that. But it's specifically for this team. So that's one type of Teams kind of chat. Teams meeting, sorry, and the key thing to understand is it's specifically for that team on a sort of ad hoc basis. Now, when people sometimes ask, well, these Teams meetings, team specific meetings, do you schedule them or how do they kind of work? Now, there is a second type of team meeting, which is not specific to a team. It's like an external facing Teams meeting. It's much more like what you guys have joined here now, where we've generated an email with a hyperlink that can be sent to anyone in the world and they can join that. And that's not team specific. Whereas this team specific one is only for these members of these teams. and it's not necessarily something you would schedule. It's something you would usually have on a kind of ad hoc basis, or you would have informally agree how it's going to work for your particular team. So for us, for example, because we're sort of consultants, and before all of this coronavirus thing happened, we were all out and about all over the place, either from working on a client site or working from home or the office. We're all in different locations. We all had an informal agreement that every morning at 8:30, we would always have a ad hoc team meeting, and at 4:45 at the end of every day, we'd also have this sort of ad hoc team meeting. And then anyone who's available to join it, whether they're wherever they're working from, if they're out and about, maybe they jump into a Starbucks for 15 minutes, they can join that team meeting, and it's on an ad hoc basis. And then the other type of Teams meeting is something that we can actually schedule from inside our Outlook. So you can see here, I can click on this Join Teams Meeting. Oh, I can select, oops, wrong button, and click on New Teams Meeting. And what that will do is it will create a new event for me. And I can see that it's generated a hyperlink, and it's generated, because I've got an additional kind of licensing package, I've also got a conference phone number as well that people can dial in with. So if they didn't want the full kind of joining through an app, they can just join via a phone call. But now I could send this to anyone in the world, and then this hyperlink would basically, when they click on it, it would open up, they would detect whether or not they had Teams installed. They don't need to have Teams or Office 365 or anything like that. You're basically bringing them into the meeting under your own umbrella, under your own Teams licensing. And it will choose whether or not they open up in the web, so they can join via the web interface or via their Teams app. Once they're in the Teams meeting, there's a bunch of different things that you can do, including sharing screens, having your webcams. You can also record the meetings as well, which is pretty useful. So in both of the internal, almost like the team-specific meetings, and the external facing Teams meetings that you can generate from like Outlook and things like that, you can on both places you can record them. Now, what it will do is it will automatically store that in one of the Office 365 products, which is called Stream, which is available here. And I'm not going to go fully into Stream today, but essentially Stream's like an internal YouTube. So that's the best way to kind of describe that. It's got almost like a BBC iPlayer kind of look and feel to it, but essentially it's for a place for storing kind of videos and things like that, recordings of meetings. And when you record a Teams meeting, it'll automatically store that inside of Stream and send you an email of where you can find a link for that, as well as inside the meeting, inside Teams, you'll also see a thumbnail appear of where that meeting was. Okay. So they're the default kind of apps that you get with Teams across the bottom, but there are additional things that we can add in as well. So when we click on this more options here, you'll see that there's a couple of different kind of things that we can use. A common one is the praise button. So praise essentially is a nice way of showing kind of recognition to an employee or a member of the team in a public kind of way. So I could say I'm going to use the thank you. Essentially what it is like an e-card. It kind of will show up as a sort of e-card for that particular user. So I'm going to post this to this. In fact, it looks like I might just need to refresh my page a second. I think it might have just froze. Jump back into praise. Oh, there we go. So just jump back into here. Essentially, then we would select and say, thank you for your help today. Don't know why that's not showing up, but once you select a person, you click on preview, click on send, and that will then post that message as a thank you directly into the thread. Other things that we can see as well, so we've got things like YouTube. So again, we can sort of post a video that we found directly from YouTube. So things like we've got a video here for Valto top tips with Microsoft Teams. We can just go onto YouTube and then we can sort of tag the team and say, hi guys, found this useful video. Please have a look. And we can see above here, Hugh managed to get that praise working. So he sent this sort of little e-card as a sort of a way of showing public praise. Other things we can do, so we can add other apps as well as we go along. So here's a commonly used one, which is called Forms. We can always get to this, by the way, by click on the more options, typing in the name of an app and selecting, say, for example, Forms. Now, Forms is one of the Office 365 products, which is included in most licenses. And we can create very quick polls, surveys, feedback forms, and things like that. And again, this could be used for sort of gathering quick fire sort of answers from the team. So this might be something like, where are you working from next week? Home, office. And when we click next, we'll see what that particular form will look like. And then when we click send, that will then post that form directly into our team. So then all the members of the team will be able to see this, and we'll be able to select our answer, click on submit vote, which will then submit our response. Now, every member of the team will be able to do that, and we'll very quickly be able to see those responses. As this is all done with Microsoft Forms, we can also open up the Forms app from office.com, and we'll be able to do things like look at the full survey responses and export that into Excel for analysis afterwards if we wanted to. Inside of the Teams interface, it's very much about light, quick ways to create these surveys and polls. Okay. There are other apps, so there's things like weather, stocks, Wikipedia, things like that. And also, if you click on the more apps button here, you'll also see the wide range of different kind of apps which automatically integrate directly with Teams. So there's things like Jira, if you're using that for sort of task management and things like that. And there's a whole host of other kind of third-party apps which integrate directly with Teams, which might be worth checking out if there's anything else that you can sort of include inside of your team. So that's essentially the sort of the team's posts area. The next tab is files. So when we click on files, this is where we'll see all the different documents which are stored within this particular team. So we can create new folders and files by clicking on the new button across the top, and we click on folder, and we call this folder 2. And we can drill down into this, and we can create a couple of different folders. Folder 3, and we'll create one more folder just to demonstrate something. And as you can see across the top now, we've got what they refer to as the breadcrumb, where we can see exactly where we've come from inside of this particular team. So if I wanted to jump back a step, so if I wanted to go to folder 2, I don't have to go all the way back to the top to get to that. I can use the breadcrumb navigation to jump me between those different areas nice and easily. I can also create new documents by clicking on new, and I can say I can create Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. When I click on the Word document, it's going to ask me, well, what do I want to call it? So I'll just call this Dougie document for now. Click on create. And what that's going to do is it's going to create that document for me in that location, and it's going to open up automatically for me inside of Teams. Now, if anyone's ever used kind of Word Online before, it's very much the same kind of functionality, but just iframed inside of Teams. So I can put into here whatever I want to do, any sort of text and things like that. And it's automatically saving everything that I'm putting, everything that I'm kind of sort of editing this sort of documents at the moment. It's automatically saving everything I'm doing. So I don't need to worry about clicking on file and save or anything like that. You'll notice even when I click on file, there's no save. The save as, which is basically duplicating it and saving it as a different location, but there's no sort of file save. There is the ability to add comments. So just like people sort of previously used to adding comments inside of a document, we can click on new, and I can type in someone's name. This is a comment for you. And they will then get an email notification to let them know that there's a comment inside of there. But what I can also do is I can start a brand new conversation around this document. So this is going to automatically post this document inside of my team's thread. So if I click on conversation across the top, what you will see is that the conversation appears on the right-hand side, and I can put in a message. So I can @tag, and I can @tag the rest of the team, and I'll say, please come and enter your name in this document. And then what that'll do is it'll start a brand new thread inside of our team. So if I just jump back out of this for a second, I go into Teams, go into my posts, you'll see that it's starting a brand new conversation inside here, and it's linked my document directly to it. So my document that lives inside of here has been posted directly into this chat. So I can click on this to go back into my document. And I can see that Chris has now been inside of the document, and he's added his name directly inside of here. I'm just going to tag him back in again, just because I wanted to sort of demonstrate co-authoring. So what we can do is we can work on this document now at the same time. So what we refer to as co-authoring means multiple people can edit the same document at the same time. So I can put, this is Dougie typing here, and I can see across the top, I can see Chris is typing in the document across the top, and I can also see at the very top of the document, I can see Chris is also entered inside of this document. So this means multiple people can edit the same document at the same time, which is really kind of a groundbreaking way of working, as it's going to be a lot more efficient and save you a lot of time. As giving a real world example, as a sort of consultant, previously before all this kind of like co-authoring functionality existed, it was a very slow process to create things like specification documents or proposals where I might be one of 3 or 4 different consultants which are all inputting inside of this particular document. It might be, for example, I'm sort of inputting the bits about Teams. I've got another consultant who's entering information about the security, another one about migration, and then there's a sort of commercial guy who's going to be putting the sales and figures and things like that at the end of the document. Now, what we would usually have to do before this co-authoring existed is I would have to fill out, say, section 1 and 2 of the document. I'd email it to someone else who fills out section 3 and 4, and then it follows this chain. Now, that was a very slow way of working because it meant we had to do our piece and then email it to somebody. They would do their piece, and we'd have to wait basically our turn. And if someone was out of the office, they were on holiday, or they were out with a client, it could take a long time to get that document filled out. It could take a couple of weeks just to get a specification document complete. Whereas now, what we can do is we can have one document that lives inside of our team. I can fill out section 1 and 2. At the same time, it could be somebody filling out section 9 and 10 at the same time, and we're both inside the same document, editing it all at the same time. So it's a lot more efficient. So something that used to take us weeks now literally takes us a matter of days because there's nothing that's slowing us down. We can all update it. And the best thing about it as well is we've all got the latest version. Another issue that we often see is of duplication of files and folders. So it could be that people are turning up to meetings with the wrong document, for example, because they don't have the latest version. If I had completed section 1 and 2 and emailed it to my colleague, and then I decided actually I needed to update section 1 again, then it means we're out of sync at that point in time if we were emailing it backwards and forwards. Whereas with this co-authoring, it means I can go back in, I know it's a single source of truth, it lives in one place, I can update it, and I can always get the latest version of what anyone's been putting directly inside of this document. So I can then get out of this document. In fact, actually, I'll just show you. If I click on the 3 dots up here, by the way, you don't have to work inside Teams. If you're not comfortable working inside Teams, we can choose to open this document directly in the browser, or I can choose to open it inside the desktop as well. So if I choose to open it inside the desktop app, what that's going to do is automatically open it in the Word application on my computer, which is just opening up on another screen. So I'll just drag that across here now. So I've got this document directly inside of the Word app. And you can see because I've already created this inside of my team, it's already got the auto save on. So everything that I'm doing now from this point in time, even though it's on the Word application, on my machine, it's saving, and it's constantly saving back to that location. I don't need to choose where it's saved to. It already knows where it's being saved to. And again, that's a kind of a concept sometimes which is difficult to grasp in terms of the way that people work and save documents has been kind of flipped on its head. So previously, people would be used to opening up the Word application, creating their Word document, and then choosing where to save it. Whereas this has kind of flipped it on its head. This is basically you'll go to the location inside of your team where you want your document to exist, and you then click on New and you create it there. Once you've created it in that location, it's going to live there. And it's constantly going to save from that point onwards. So previously, people used to opening Word, creating a document, and then choosing where to save it, whereas this flips it on its head. You choose where to save it, and then you create the document. Now, the benefits of that is the fact that if for example, at the moment, I'm working on my browser and I'm working sort of online, if my internet suddenly went, it's going to save from the very last character that I entered into this document. Whereas if I was working online and I hadn't chosen where to save it, I would then lose it at that point in time. Or if I had done it on my Word application, if the document got corrupt or the battery went on my laptop or something terrible happened and it's not saved, I've lost that document. So it's a much safer way to do it this way, is to choose where to save it and then create your document rather than doing it the old way of the other way around. Now inside here, we can also upload documents and folders. So when we click on upload, we can click on files, and this is where we can then choose a particular document. So I'm just going to go to my test documents. We'll just find test documents upload. And we could do this with sort of multiple documents, so we can upload in mass, multiple files, multiple folders, all at the same time. We've also got the ability here to sync documents. So when we click on the sync button, what that will do is it will prompt us to say, well, which of these folders and files do we want to sync offline? Now, syncing can be really useful for multiple purposes. The two main purposes, if you're wanting to actually use the documents offline, so say, for example, you're somebody who travels a lot on trains and things like that, and you need access to those documents offline, you can sync those documents and access them at any point. Another core reason to sync, and this is more for people who are looking at rolling this out to people who are maybe not so comfortable using technology and things like that, but they're used to using things like File Explorer rather than sort of online portals. When you sync this, the documents will appear inside of your File Explorer. So if I just jump back a step, you'll then see, once you sync your sort of team, it will appear inside File Explorer. So I've synced my customers team, and I can see here now I've got a folder for each of the different sort of customers that I've been working on. Now, once I've synced my customer docs, you'll see that there's a bunch of different kind of symbols that appear inside of here. Now, all of these different symbols mean something. So by default, we've got this cloud symbol. It's like a blue cloud. And what that means is that I can only access this document when I have an internet connection. So if my internet suddenly went now, I wouldn't have access to any of these particular documents, which have got the blue cloud symbol. However, if I was to access a document or create a new document, so let's just create an example, you'll see now what it's doing is there's this symbol which is kind of like blue arrows in a bent round in a circle. It looks like it's supposed to be like it's spinning, and it's like it's syncing this particular file or folder. And once it's actually finished syncing, so we'll just create another folder in here as an example. Once it's finished syncing, what we'll then have is a set of new kind of icons. So let's just quickly maybe copy some documents across. I'm going to paste in those documents now, and we can then see these are now synced. So this is now synced into my folder inside of my team, and I can see I've got this green circle with a green tick in the middle, but it's got a white background. Now, what this means is that it's temporarily synced to my device. So if my internet connection suddenly went, I do have access to these particular documents. However, what Microsoft have done, and it's a very clever thing, is that there's a self kind of managing element to this. Now, if you imagine, if you synced everything you have inside of your team offline, the storage of your laptop or your computer is very quickly going to get sort of reach its capacity. So what it will do is any document that you've not been accessing for a period of time, and this is usually, Microsoft changed this period, but it's roughly maybe a month, 2 months, something like that. It will automatically put those documents from being in this green sort of tick state back into that blue cloud symbol state, which kind of looks like this. However, what if there was a scenario where you didn't want that to happen? So you wanted to make sure that there was always a copy of these folders. So an example of that might be, say for the way we kind of work is the certain folders which you always want to get access to. So let's say like disaster recovery plans. You're very rarely going to go into disaster recovery plans, but if, for example, something disastrous happens, so the office burns down, you need to make sure that you can access things like the sort of insurance certificates and things like that all in one place. Then you need to make sure that folder is always synced to your device. You don't want it to go back into cloud only mode just because you haven't been inside of it for a month or so. So to do that, we can right click on the folder and say always keep on this device. And now that's going to change that particular icon to be a full green tick with a green background with a white tick on top of it. And that means I've always got this available on my device. And I can always remove that as well if I change my mind at a different point in time. So the symbols we've looked at so far is the blue cloud symbol, which means it's cloud only. We've got they're all now in that state. We've also got the green circle with a green tick with a white background, which means it's temporarily available on this device. And then we've got the white tick with the green background, which means it's always available on this device. Other symbols you might see. So I had an example of this further down somewhere. There we go. Other examples of this that we might see is if we got a red cross. Now, the red cross essentially is showing us that there's something wrong with that particular file or folder. Typically, what this is it might be that I've lost access to a particular folder that it's trying to sync. Maybe it's something. It's usually if there's a conflict. So if there's a conflict in the particular documents, it will then give you that red cross. And by a conflict, I mean, say for example, I'm going to be working on a train. I'm not going to have internet access for a couple of hours until I get into the office. So I'm working on a particular document. I'm working on a proposal, and I'm on the train, and I'm working on that document. Well, I'm working on that offline, but what if my colleague Joe Bloggs, he's working on the exact same document inside the Teams, but he's online? Then technically what's happening is it's creating two different versions because they're not synced. I'm not on the internet, so it's not sort of merging those syncs automatically, and we're not co-authoring at that point in time. So the problem then happens is when I get off the train, I get into the office, and I sync up to the Wi-Fi. What happens is this is then going to try and sync my local copy up to the Teams online copy, and it's going to realize there's conflicts. And that's why I've got this red cross here. Now, when I go into the documents afterwards and open them up, it will then coach me through the process of what I need to do to resolve that conflict. So it's either I save my copy with a different name, so basically I duplicate the sort of document, I get rid of my changes, or I manually go through and merge all of my changes as well. So that's essentially at least showing you that there is an issue, and you can go in and try and sort of resolve that. Now, the only other symbol that you might possibly see is if there was no symbol at all. So if it's completely blank, and that usually is the case that you'd see all of these would suddenly be blank. Now, the way that one of those issues kind of shows its head is when we see people first using this. Sometimes what you might see is somebody says, okay, well, I've been updating these folders and I've created a bunch of new folders in here, but Joe Bloggs on my team, he can't see any of those particular folders. Now, usually what you find is when you go and look either at the original person's computer or his colleague Joe Bloggs, one of them will be sort of not syncing their document. So all of these symbols will just be white. There'll be no symbol at all, it's blank. And that's the worst case scenario, because what's essentially happening is the app which is on your computer, which is running that sync, has stopped working for some reason. Usually, typically, those issues are caused by maybe you've changed your password recently and it's not quite synced to your computer, or maybe there's an update to your computer that's not run yet and it's broken something. But typically there's something that's not quite right, and you'd probably want to reach out to your sort of IT support provider or your IT department to sort of help you out resolve that kind of issue. And then the other type of issue that we often see when people are first using this kind of syncing is that people don't quite understand that what they're viewing here in File Explorer is the exact like for like inside of Teams. It's a sync. It's basically a window into those teams. It's the exact same documents, just viewed in a slightly different way. So sometimes people misunderstand that, and when they sync down these documents, they say, actually, all of these folders here, I don't need these on my computer, so I'm just going to highlight them, click on delete, and remove them from my computer. Well, of course, what then happens is that will sync with the team, and it will delete all those folders for everybody else. And again, that rears its head by somebody in the team saying, hang on, where's all these folders that I created yesterday? Where have they gone? And it's because somebody's kind of deleted them, and they've kind of lost them from that point. So that's essentially syncing our sort of documents, and it works in the exact same way with OneDrive as well. So we're not really going to be looking at OneDrive in this session today, but in the exact same way that we can sync our Teams documents, if you're inside of OneDrive, inside of Office 365, you'll also notice there is a sync button inside of there as well, and that will give you the exact same functionality by syncing it to your device. However, inside File Explorer, it will show up under OneDrive and then hyphen the name of your organization. Okay. So other things we can do with our documents. So we can drag and drop them around to move them between folders if we wanted to. However, the best way to actually do this to make sure that it actually goes to the relevant place is when we select on the left hand side, we've got this move or copy to functionality. So move to is essentially like cut and paste. So inside of File Explorer, it's like right clicking on cut and then clicking on pasting it to a different area. And copy to is just like copy and paste, where we're copying it from one location to another. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this particular document from its current location. So what I'm going to do is click on move, and then I get these options here where I can see the current folders. Now I could actually use this backup button and choose all the different type of teams I have access to, and I can move it into a different team if I wanted to. However, I'm going to actually move it inside of this particular location. So I'm going to select on my folder 2, folder 3, folder 4, and I'm going to move it into folder 4. Now that's going to remove it from the current location. And then if I drill down into my folder 4, I'll then see my document appear inside of here. The exact same functionality for using it to copy to as well works the same. Other things we can do when we select a document, we can choose to make this a tab. Now, if I just jump back a step back into posts outside of here, you can see the default tab is post, files, and wiki, but we can also link to multiple things across the top. And one of those things are documents. So if we wanted to have a document, say for example, it was a document we were using all the time, it was something that we were using as like a records management, or maybe it was like an Excel document we were using as a rota, or anything like that, which was a document we were using on a day-to-day basis. Rather than having to jump into files and finding where it lives inside of all these folders, we can click on this make this a tab button across the top, and it'll automatically add this as a link directly to the top of this team. So now from anywhere inside of the team, I can jump straight into that document by clicking on the tab across the top. Other ways we can access these documents. So if I select it on the left hand side, you can also see there's an option here to pin to top. So I can click on pin. And then in fact, if I just upload a few more files, this will make it a little bit easier to see. So let's just select test documents, forms, I'll upload a few more. So now, say for example, I want form 4 to be easily accessible. I can click on pin to top, and I'm going to pin form 3 as well, and form 1. So I can easily see here now, I've got these documents here, and at a glance, without having to jump into any of these folders or try and find them, I can click on it and automatically open that document straight from a pin at the top of the Files tab. Other things I can do, so I can download documents. Now, you wouldn't really want to ever download documents from Teams. The whole idea of cloud working and sort of having your documents in Teams is meaning that you never have anything stored on your local machine. It's one thing to sync your documents to your machine, but that's a sync. That technically means they are living in the cloud. You don't ever want to have documents stored on your local machine, because if you had documents stored on your laptop and your laptop broke or got stolen or you lost it or something like that, that's the document gone for good. Whereas if you have them living in Teams and then syncing down, it doesn't matter if something happens to your laptop, you can get another laptop and sync them back down from this Teams location. So we never really want to download and have anything stored locally. We can delete our documents by clicking on delete here. And that then deletes the document and puts it inside of a recycle bin. Now I'll show you the recycle bin in a second. We can rename our documents. So we can click on the rename button here. And that then renames our document. And we also have the ability to open these documents in SharePoint. Now, if anyone's sort of familiar with using Office 365 and the products of Office 365, you might already be familiar with SharePoint. And now what Teams does to leverage SharePoint is every team has a corresponding SharePoint site. So the SharePoint site is actually where all these documents are stored. This is essentially like an iframe to a SharePoint site. So if I click on Open in SharePoint, I'm actually going to see all these different documents actually exist inside of this particular team. So this is where I can go in and I can find all my sort of documents, and if there's any functionality which is not yet in Teams, we can find that functionality directly inside of SharePoint. So for example, things like the recycle bin, if I click on the cog and click on site information and view all site settings, I'll then see there is a recycle bin on this site. So this is where I can go back and I can restore my document that I was previously deleted. So I can click on here and click on restore. This document should sit in this first stage recycle bin for say 30 days, and then it'll automatically get deleted. And then it'll go into a second stage recycle bin, which you can access by clicking the link across the bottom. And again, it'll sit there for another 30 days before it automatically gets deleted. Now, these timeframes, sometimes Microsoft do move around a little bit, but in reality, if you've deleted a document and you don't have any form of backup solution for Office 365, you should be trying to restore that document as soon as possible, because it could be gone in as little as 60 days. So once I select this document and click on restore, it's automatically going to put that document back into this original location. Okay. So that about covers off the sort of files tab within inside of our team. Just to go back over though, the attach button that we missed off from the first bit, now we've got some documents inside of here. We can choose to either upload from my computer, which is, again, something you should never really be doing. The reason being is because you shouldn't have documents on your actual computer. They should always be living inside of Teams. Now, if this is a one-off, basically it's the first time you're uploading it, then that's fine. But going forward, you would always want to select that they're coming from Teams, for example. So to select our team, we select the file that we want, and then we click on share a link, and then that then shares our link directly inside the team. And I can tag our team, say this is a document for review. And it's just another way of doing that exact same posting that we did before by using the conversation tab, but this time I'm actually doing it from inside the conversation rather than from inside of the document. So that's essentially the file tab. We've then got the Wiki tab. So by default, you'll have a Wiki tab in here, and there won't be a huge amount inside of this particular wiki. But what you can do is you can build up on this and add your own pages with sub information inside of here. Now, these can be really useful for teams where, say, for example, you are working from home now and there's short snippets of information you want to make it easy for people to know. So how do they access the systems remotely? Maybe there's VPN details that they need to go and install something or download Citrix or whatever it is. There might be some how-to guides and things like that that you want to create in here. So we can create a new page and we can say how to, and then we can say how to install VPN, and then put some information around this. And again, these could be hyperlinks, text, tables, images, all sorts of different things. Useful contacts or something like that. Team leaders, whatever it is, you can put these sort of short snippet bits of information in and form these how-to guides specific to the team very quickly. And it's much easier to sort of go into one place. Now, as a real world example of what we use this for internally is as we kind of manage a lot of our customers' Office 365 licenses, as well as the third party kind of licenses for all sorts of different things. If there was something that was kind of a bit rare or unique, say we've got to purchase a certain type of product license for a customer and it's once a year, we always forget how do we do it, where do we go, what reference number do we need, who do we call, what website do we go to. It can be a full day of just trying to piece together how we bought this particular product license last time, and it's always a weird kind of sort of scenario. So what we do instead is for all these little kind of odd jobs that we don't often do, we have a tab just called, say, like how to, and then we can have in here how to order a certain type of product license, and in there we can say, okay, the ref number is this, whoops, ref number is this, the website is this, the contact is this, and then it's much quicker for us next time to go in there and say how to purchase license. We know exactly where we're going, the reference number we need, the quantities and all that sort of stuff all in one place. But you can customize this and use this for whatever you like. So those are the three main tabs, which is post, files, and wiki. And we see we can also add our own additional tabs across the top as well. So we've already added this Word document tab across the top, but we can also add a lot of other types of things. So when we click on that plus button across the top, you see I can add links directly to SharePoint libraries, particular Excel forms we're using, Microsoft forms that we're using, OneNotes, PDFs, and all sorts of good things that we can put in here. A common example is of a website that we might want to post directly inside of here. So this could be, for example, Google or something like that. It's very rare you probably have Google, but say, for example, if it was a third-party app that you use that has a URL, so things like Salesforce, MailChimp, Breathe HR, Bamboo HR, all these kind of third-party kind of websites that you use on a day-to-day basis, you could link directly to those third-party websites by adding a link across the top. And this then quickly becomes almost like a one-stop shop where you can quickly access your conversations, your files, and your third-party websites that you're using on a day-to-day basis, all through tabs across the top up here. Another popular tab that we see people using is the Planner tab. So when we select Planner, what this will do is create something. If anyone's ever used Trello before, it's very similar to that, if not a sort of direct kind of rip-off of that. But it's really useful, and it means that all of this sort of the access to it, the data is all stored securely inside of this team. So I'm going to call this my test team plan, and I click save, and this is going to spin me up a new planner. Now, what Planner essentially is, just like Trello, it's kind of like this Kanban board where you've probably seen before in offices where people have a big whiteboard and then they put columns, which they refer to as buckets in here, of things like maybe it's pending or complete. And then you can create these tasks, set a due date for them, assign them to someone, and then you can easily drag and drop them into those different buckets. You could the best thing about this is it's very versatile. It's very simple to use, but it's very versatile in terms of its flexibility. So this could be, for example, rather than me using these statuses, there might be particular sort of gateways of approval that people use. They could be, if this was related to an event that I was organising, maybe I categorise it by this is task related to venue, this is task related to catering, the food, this is task related to the music, and then I can easily sort of create tasks and drag them and drop them into place. Once you've added a task into your plan, so I'll assign this to myself. When you click into it, you can add more detail into your plan. So we can see what bucket it's inside of, so what it relates to. So I can say this relates to the music. I can say the progress, whether it's in progress, is completed, the priority level, whether it's urgent or important or medium or low. When I'm planning on starting it, so I'm going to say I'm going to plan on starting this next week and it'll be due by the 15th. I can add notes to this. So I can say this is some notes for my task. I can choose to show them on the card as well. Now, this is really cool, really important, because it means at a glance, I don't have to go into the full thing to view this. And we actually use one of these plans for kind of like our high level kind of project plans. So we can kind of say a quick glance for each kind of task which lives in here, what's the latest with it, the latest update or progress that's being made. What we can also do is add subtasks. We can say this is subtask 1, subtask 2, one more, subtask 3, and we can also choose to show them on the card. So at a glance, again, we don't have to open the full thing. We can just say, well, task 2 and 3 are complete, and we can see 2 out of 3 subtasks are complete before we move on to actually marking the full thing as complete. We can choose to add attachments, whether that be PDFs or statements of work or anything else which is sort of related to this particular task. And we can add comments as well. So I have done task 2 and 3. Please do task 1. So what this means is I can then add comments as a sort of auditable trail of who's done what and when. And when I'm handing this over, so I could hand this over to a member of my team and remove myself from it. And that means they can come in and they can see the latest comment for that particular task. Of course, we can mark our tasks as sort of complete by clicking on the tick at the top, and then that will then remove it from this particular area and mark it as complete. There's multiple ways we can also view our tasks. Oh, in fact, I forgot one thing. When I open up a task, you'll also notice across the right-hand side, we can also tag it with these different labels. Now, by default, the labels are just named after the color that it shows, but we can rename these to whatever we want. So I'm just going to call this, say, label 1, label 2, not very imaginative, but there we go, label 3. And then I can select as many of these different labels as I like, and I can see that I can quickly categorize these, again, not only by bucket, by the labels that they go into as well. So when I then go into my views across the top, by default, I'm viewing it by bucket. So by the column that it's inside of is how I'm kind of viewing it. But I could also view it by assigned to. So in here, I can see how many tasks are sort of assigned to the different members of the team. I can see by progress, so where it's up to, if it's not started or if it's complete or in progress. The due date, the labels, so this is where I sort of categorize things before, and these could be whatever labels I like. Or the priority, so I can see things which are urgent, important, medium, or low. There are other things as well, so there are basic charts, so I can see based on sort of if they're started or late or where they're up to from a sort of status point of view. Based on the bucket or the priority, I can see how many tasks there are. And I can also see by member of the team as well, who has actually got the most tasks. So this is a really good way of getting an overview glance of how many people have got different tasks. And say, for example, if Kyle has got 10 tasks, but Chris has only got 3, then we might sort of move them around a little bit. So it's a little bit more even. And they have sort of 5 tasks each. Other things as well. So we've also got the schedule. So this is a calendar view of the tasks. So we can see when things are due to start and finish based on either month or per week. And we can sort of flick through these sort of calendars. That's essentially Planner. So it's a very lightweight, similar to like Trello, way of sort of planning your sort of tasks. inside of your team, and all of that data is staying inside of your team, and it's nice and easy to access. But there are, again, a whole host of different tabs that we can add across the top, whether they be sort of documents, planners, forms, all sorts of things. And there's a bunch of different third-party things which integrate directly with your teams as well, that you can add tabs directly to the top. So there might be something third-party you're already using and making it nice and easy to jump directly into that. So things like Zendesk for support, or sort of MailChimp, or anything like that for other bits and bobs. Just going back now into our sort of team. We briefly touched on channels earlier. So everything that we've been viewing so far has been inside the general channel, but I can make new channels by clicking on this 3 dots here and clicking on add channel. Now, when we create a new channel, it's going to create a brand new conversational area. It's going to create a brand new files and wikis area as well. So it's basically a fresh kind of area. And now we might want to break this out by different projects we're working on, different customers, or different kind of work streams in general. Or I've seen people breaking it down by location. So if you've got an office in like Manchester, you might have a channel for Manchester, one for London, one for Leeds, and then you can have very specific chats then in those different areas. Or you can have a sort of general chat where everyone can sort of form part of that conversation. We can have a sort of a channel. So say, for example, we have this for Project X, and then the description is, okay, that's already taken. So Project Z, and then we'll say, this is a channel to discuss Project Z. We can also choose the privacy. So there's the ability to lock down channels as well to particular people, and so sort of locking that down. What I would advise for people who are first starting using Teams is that you probably don't want to try and be too granular with how you're sort of giving access inside of Teams. When people are first starting to use Teams, you want to find your feet with it, and you should really work on the basis that if you're a member of the team, you should have access to all the conversations and all of the files. So when you're first getting going, it's quite normal to have split out departments sometimes into 2 different teams. So say, for example, you've got 10 people in your finance department, there might be one team called finance team, which all 10 members have access to. However, there's some restricted access. Maybe it's related to payroll or something else, which is sensitive data that only 2 of the 10 employees or 10 members of the finance team have access to. You then create a second team called finance restricted team and only give those 2 members access, and that makes it a lot easier to sort of control who has access to what and mitigates the issues of sort of data falling into the wrong hands. So now I've got my new channel here. You can see I've got a brand new area here for posts, a brand new area for files, which is all brand new and sort of empty, and same goes for wiki as well. So it's a nice way of kind of breaking out those kind of conversation, those files into multiple areas. Now, what I would recommend is, and we've tried this, we've actually gone through the sort of pain points of trying this ourselves, is I would try and keep the number of channels down to somewhere between 5 to 10 is almost like the sweet spot, really. Any more than that, and you tend to find people try and go down the path of least resistance. So we've actually trialed it ourselves before, where we tried to have one team called projects, and then we had, say we've got 20, 30 different projects all running at the same time. We would try and have a channel per project, so we could have all those conversations about that project in one place. Now, what ended up happening is you might get, say, a customer call up, and say if you're out and about or you're on lunch or something and you miss the call, and somebody wants to be able to say, Joe Bloggs from Joe Bloggs Limited has called for you today, Dougie. Really, that conversation should go into the project channel. But in reality, when people are faced with 30 different channels, they can't really be bothered finding the relevant one. They'll always default back to this general channel and putting it in there. And the same goes for documents and conversations and things like that. So really trying to keep it as low key as possible will mean that people will actually stick to the sort of channels that you kind of given them, and things will stay in an ordered kind of fashion. So that's essentially our sort of channels. The search at the top is actually really good, really powerful. So if you were to search for something like, say, for example, when I created a thread earlier called Project X, if I search for that, I'll find all the areas which is found these kind of key terms. And when I select on my search results, it'll jump me straight back into that area that I created earlier on. And these searches are really good. You can kind of refine them from sort of who it's from, the type, whether it's chat or it's from a channel, and there's a whole host of other sort of filters that you can use, and it's really quite powerful. Other things we can do for search, we can also search for people. So if I was to search for a person and then select them, that's automatically going to open me up directly with a one-to-one chat. So I can see now on the left-hand side, this has now jumped me into the second tab, which is called chat. But I could jump to that at any time. So if I was inside the Teams area, I could jump into the chat and I could see sort of my messages. So I can see my messages here directly with Steve. And in here, I can, again, sort of say, hi, how are you? And these messages they are not like normal Teams where you have sort of threads and sort of subjects and things like that. They are much more like a text or WhatsApp where we've got these direct messages going backwards and forwards with people. They, again, can use the sort of liking symbols and things like that. And we also have with direct chat, we can see when people have actually read our messages. So if Steve was to read this message, this little symbol here would then turn into like an eye symbol. So it's a bit like in WhatsApp where you get the tick and then the double tick and the blue double ticks when people have read your message. In the same way we got here, this single tick means that it's been sent, whereas when I see like a little eye symbol appear on it, it means that he's read that particular message. I've got all the same kind of functionality about attaching things and having sort of emojis and GIFs and meme creators and all that sort of good stuff directly in here. I also have the ability to do video chat Steve directly from inside here. So if I click this video button, it would start a call, very much like a Skype call, digital call, where we can have audio and webcam. I can see the files I've shared directly with Steve, and I can see the organization as well. So it's not set for Steve, but if it would show his kind of manager and any activity, so any documents that we sort of previously shared. Now, what we can also do is we can add people directly into these one-to-one chats by clicking on the add people button across the top. And then when I type in someone's name and select them and click on add, it will automatically start a brand new chat with both our names. So I can see Chris and Steve inside here, and I can say, hi, guys, how are you? Is just a demo. So this essentially is then going to create a sort of a lightweight kind of conversational area. Now, this isn't something that you'd really want to be using on a heavy kind of basis. So if there was something that you were wanting to be exchanging a lot of documents and sort of store those conversations in one place, you probably want to create a brand new team for this. Whereas these kind of lightweight kind of little group chats are perfect for if there was just a one-off scenario where there's multiple members of different teams that needed to have a quick chat and sort of send each other a little document. This is a good place to do it, so you don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of setting up a new team. You can have these sort of lightweight little sort of chat areas as well, and we can choose to leave these at any time as well, and we can jump out of those particular conversations. Now, it's important as well that you understand that these aren't teams, so if people leave, any documents which are floating around in here, you need to make sure they are stored inside of teams, because they potentially could get lost if everyone kind of left those conversations. Just going back to the search as well, there's other things we can do with a search. So if you use the / button, you'll also see there's a whole bunch of different commands that you can use inside of Teams. So different things about setting your availability, which I'll show you in the UI in a second. And there's different things you can sort of see, get help with Teams. You can see everywhere that someone's mentioned you directly inside of a team and so forth. There's a whole host of different commands and different things that you can use directly inside the search. Another good one is called org, and then when you type in org, you'll see different people. You can type in someone's name. So when you select somebody, you'll then see the org structure to show exactly who's a member of their team and who they report to in this sort of overall hierarchy of your organization. So that's basically the chat and the teams. The other what we've got across the top up here is called activity. So this is where we can see all the different notifications that we get throughout Teams, whether it's someone's reacted to our post, tagged us directly in something, like something. If I click back on that, it'll jump me directly to where that post is. And we can also filter these as well. So when we click on the filter button across the top, we can type in a filter, or we can use the predefined ones by clicking on these 3 dots in more options, where we can see anything which is unread. So we can kind of treat some of these like almost like your inbox inside your Outlook, where if I say right click on this, I can say mark as unread. And then when I click on here and click on unread, you'll then see all the messages where I've previously not read, and I can go back and sort of view them at any time. Other filters, we've got mentions. So that's where anywhere I've been mentioned directly in something, I can jump directly to it. I see replies, so anywhere that I maybe posted something and then someone's replied directly to my post. Any reactions, so anywhere that someone's sort of either provided a little reaction like a thumbs up or sort of a smiley face or something. Any missed calls or voicemails. So this is essentially if someone's sort of tried to call me and I've missed it and I can see that's a missed call. Apps is anything that has been posted in via an app, maybe automatically, like if it's weather or something like that. And trending is anything which is getting a lot of attention. So it might not even necessarily be something I'm directly involved with, but if there was a particular thread which was getting a lot of likes, a lot of comments and feedback and things like that, it's a great way of kind of seeing what's kind of going on, what's getting a lot of attention at that point in time. So that's essentially the filters for our activity and showing how we sort of manage our activity. We also have the calendar tab. Now the calendar tab will show our calendar and only our calendar. A typical question we get asked a lot is, can we see other sort of team members' calendars and shared calendars and things like that? The answer is no, not yet anyway. It's only your own calendar. But in here, this is where we can do things like automatically start Teams meetings or even scheduling new Teams meetings directly inside of here as well. And when we schedule a new meeting, it's exactly like Outlook, where we can see we can add titles, attendees, date and time and things like that, and then that will automatically send them like an email in Outlook to add into their calendar. So what you will probably getting a little bit of a flavor for at the moment is Microsoft are kind of getting a lot of functionality directly inside of Teams. So in reality, it could be in say 5 years time that Teams really becomes this one-stop shop for everything that you do. So you will always have, when people start using Teams, internal email traffic just drops off the edge of a cliff. It just completely stops. After a period of time, maybe a year, where people are using Teams internally, they also start using Teams externally as well. So they start creating things like for their partners, their suppliers, contractors, customers, and they start bringing them in. So external email traffic starts going down again. And also you can access this calendar, which I'm sure in time you'll be able to access shared calendars and other people's calendars. So really the need for Outlook eventually will kind of disappear. So all of these kind of things, your phone calls, your conversations, your emails, your documents, they're all going to be under this kind of roof. And it's like a one-stop shop for everything you kind of need. The next tab is calls. So I've got an additional license, which means I've got a dial pad. Now at Valto, we've done away with all our kind of desk phones and things like that. Nobody has a desk phone anymore because we're all out and about. We're all kind of remote working and working in different locations at any given point. So we need to be able to make phone calls and dial out through this. So there's an additional license which gives you this. But if you didn't have that license, what you would be able to do is you'd still be able to search for internal colleagues, and you'd be able to dial and you'd be able to select them and give them a phone call, just like you would do through like Skype or something like that. We have a tab for files. So our files tab will essentially shows all recent documents where we've been working on, and that's regardless of what team or anything that it's come from. We'll be able to see where our documents are and be able to access them. We can access the Microsoft Teams. So this is where we'll see all the documents from all the different teams that we have access to. And we also have OneDrive. So we'll see our own personal OneDrive. So we've not really had a chance to cover OneDrive in today's session, but essentially OneDrive is your own personal document storage space. So inside of Office 365, things like Teams, which is essentially SharePoint, is where you would collaborate and you would store documents for the wider team or department. And that basically replaces the need for things like file servers and shared drives and things like that. But also you have OneDrive, which is your own personal document storage space, which replaces the need to store things like on your own C drive. So rather than storing things in desktop and pictures and things like that on your own computer, you store it inside OneDrive. And I would recommend you use OneDrive because you get a lot of space per employee. You get up to 1 terabyte of data. So there's a lot of storage space to take advantage of there. And then the last tab here is actually a custom tab, which is we've called Intranet. And now it is actually physically possible to create your own tabs and then link them to Sharepoint sites. So, for example, if you've got an intranet where you sort of post news and things like that, you might want a tab inside of your Teams where you can easily access your intranet and see what's kind of been going on as well. Well, there are a whole host of third-party apps. Again, we can look at different apps that we can add across the left-hand side, and by clicking on more apps, that'll give you an overview of all the different kind of apps and things which you can add into your Teams. Then across the top, up here, when we click on our picture, there's a few different options that we can change. So we can change our own profile picture by clicking on the change picture here. We can change our own sort of status to whether available. Mine's automatically saying presenting, because what's pretty cool is it knows, because I'm sharing my screen, that I'm presenting, and it'll automatically put me into a status of presenting. So my colleagues know that I'm actually sort of sharing my screen and so forth. I can set myself to available, busy, do not disturb. Now, do not disturb will actually stop sort of notifications coming through to you and getting those sort of pings, and it will stop any phone calls and things like that coming through to you as well. Be right back and appear away. So appear away will automatically set itself to appearing away. When you've been away from your screen for 2 or 3 minutes, it will then automatically set itself to appearing away. We can also set our status. So when we click on set status, I might put in here something like presenting Teams training this afternoon. I can then say show when people message me. So that means if someone wants to message me, they'd automatically get an automated response back to say, oh, what my status is, that I'm presenting the Teams training this afternoon. So they probably would expect that they won't get any responses. I can also choose how long I want that particular status to be there for. So I can say clear this data never, which means it will never run out. Just for an hour, just for 4 hours. So I'm going to say just for 4 hours in this case. But I could also say for the rest of today, for the rest of the week, or I could set a custom kind of time frame as well. Other things up in here, I can also see when I've saved a particular thread. So there's a thread in here that I found particularly interesting, or it was like a task that I was going to come back to. I could say, okay, well, I want to save this. So to do that, we hover over and we click on the 3 dots and we click on save this message. I'll save this message as well. And then when I click on my picture across the top, I can then see when I click on saved, this then opens up and shows me my saved messages, and I can see all the places that I've kind of bookmarked. So when I click on them, I can jump back to it. And this acts as almost like a bookmarking sort of service, so I can go back and very quickly see ones that threads and posts and things that are of interest that I want to quickly jump back to at any sort of given time. And I can also, when I go back, and I'll sort of mark it as unsave this as well, so I can remove that from this option. Okay, I think we're just about coming up to time now in terms of our sort of demonstration portion, and I think we'll be going over to look at any sort of questions that we've got on the board. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to post those questions, and we'll start going through those from top to bottom now.
Thank you, Dougie. Perhaps if we just quickly jump into the final slides, and then we can move on to the Q&As.
Yep, sure. Okay, so can you see that?
Yep.
Yep, okay, cool. So that was the Microsoft Teams demo. The next thing I want to talk about is the workshops, and that we've got a sort of availability. So things that we can kind of offer you. So Valto can deliver remote workshops on multiple different topics, not just around sort of Teams, but we do have specific things like Teams adoption. So how's the best way to sort of adopt this, which is where we look at how you're currently using your IT infrastructure and how the best way to sort of adopt that with different methods and different strategies. The Microsoft 365 and Modern Workplace. We've got an event that we're going to talk to you about in a moment, which will cover a lot of kind of information about that. But other things as well, things like security, how best to secure not only Teams, but Office 365 and all your sort of cloud services. Quite typically with Teams, people get started with it, but in reality, it can become a bit of a runaway train. So without really having some scope and guidance about how best to set this up, you can end up with a bit of a runaway train where you're not too sure who's got access to what. There's a whole host of things like Microsoft Azure, sort of collaboration, compliance, Power Apps and automation, so things like building apps and automation, all these sort of good things. We have workshops that we can help you with. So if you're interested in any of those bits, please do email us on hello@valto.co.uk and we can sort of help pick that up for you. The next thing is our next event. So the event that we've been running today is just one of a series. We've been running quite a few recently, and we're sort of running them free of charge, just to help our customers and people we're working with get up to speed with a lot of these sort of technologies. So the next event that's going to be running is the Virtual Office with Microsoft 365. And this is all about remote working. So it's about helping you map what you can use things like Microsoft Teams and all these other key tools inside of Office 365 to help you with your remote working schedule. So different tools for matching things that you might have been using in the office. How you can have effective communication, so using things like Teams and Planner and To-Do and all these other cool apps which inside Office 365 to have effective communication. Remote client engagement, so questions we're often asked is when people are sort of used to having clients coming into their office and things like that, how do they sort of manage all of that? So all of this abilities to be able to set up your virtual office with Microsoft 365 will be answered in our next event. And the event is on Thursday, the 9th of April, and it's at midday, 12 o'clock for an hour. And again, there'll be the ability to have Q&As as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Hugh?
No, thank you, Dougie. What I'll do now is I'll run through some of the questions that people have asked throughout the session. One thing that I would like to add, that we've posted an announcement at the top, and we're also reposting that now, which is a link to an online form that you can fill in. That there you can provide feedback on how the session's gone today, and obviously then we can improve these sessions moving forward. So we hope you've all found it useful. So one of the questions at the very beginning was, will we share the slides? So yes, this session has been recorded, and following this, we will send a link to the YouTube channel where you'll be able to play back this video and share it with your colleagues. The next question, Dougie, for yourself. Am I able to message a team if I'm not included in that team?
To message a team, you must be a member of that team. So you have to be included in that particular team. Now, there is the ability, and if I just jump back in our screen, there is the ability to jump in and out of teams. So if there was something that wasn't necessarily as fixed as a department, maybe you're using this for a project, you can join teams, sort of in different ways, and then you can choose to leave them at any time. So if you need to jump in and out of different teams, you can do that. And there's different types of teams as well. So when you actually create teams, we can see here there are 3 different types. So we've got the ability to have private teams, which means that by default, no one has access to it and an owner must add you into it. And then you've got a public team, which means that anyone can sort of jump in and out of it. Now, in that scenario where you're using it for like projects, this is perfect to use for that, where people can jump in and out, and as their sort of tasks are done for that particular project and they're no longer required, they can leave. And if they need to come back, they can jump in at a future state. And then the final team type is org-wide, where it means by default it's automatically going to add everyone inside of the organization directly inside of that team. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Dougie. The other thing is that you can actually, when you create a team, that will become a distribution list. So if you're able to get the email of that team, you're able to send an email to it as well. The next question, Dougie, is how can I make a live event in Microsoft Teams?
Cool, good question. So again, let me just jump back into my team. So when we click on the calendar tab on the left hand side, not only can we sort of start a sort of ad hoc meeting by clicking on meet now or creating a sort of a scheduled meeting, we can also choose to create a live event. So just like what we're giving right now, where you've all joined our live event, this is how we can come in, we can schedule this, give it a title and sort of details, who the organizer is. There's different roles as well. So we've got someone who is a presenter. So like myself, in this case, I'm being a presenter. We also have a role which is called a producer, which in this case Hugh is doing, and he's being able to sort of control the sort of Q&A and things like that, which is happening in the background. And then you can send this out to as many people as you like, who are then sort of attendees that can join. Okay.
Thank you, Dougie. There is some license constraints around that, so you might need to double check your licenses. You need to be on an E3 or above, and it may be that it's blocked currently by your IT team or the setting hasn't been switched on. So we can help you with that if you need to. Just get in touch with hello@valto.co.uk. The next question, Dougie, is how can I make a dial call, for example, a mobile phone number or an external number?
Okay, so on that, that will require a sort of additional license, which I'm sure Hugh will be able to tell you all about after this. But essentially, under our calls tab, we've then got a sort of dial pad here, and this is where I can just dial out any phone number and click on call, and it's then just like any other kind of phone call. Okay.
Yeah, so there is a very good license called the Business Voice license, which is very popular at the moment, and that can be added on to any business plan for £12 a user a month, and that will provide you the ability to make calls. The next question is, can you post a voice message or a video to Microsoft Teams as opposed to just a standard chat?
Well, probably the best way to do that would be through Stream. So you can use the Stream app inside of here, and this is where you can like record yourself, record a video. You can create channels. Basically, it's just like YouTube. So you can create channels of sort of videos, and then once you've created your sort of video and it lives inside of Stream, you can then use the Stream tab at the bottom where you select this, and all your videos will show up. You'll be able to select that and automatically post that into your team.
Thank you, Dougie. On the phone app as well, you're able to hit the record option. So if you're on your phone, you can actually hit a little mic and record a message as well. I don't think that's available on the desktop as it stands now. How would we go through, how can we convene on a video call on Microsoft Teams? So this sounds like potentially a support issue, but Dougie, if you can just show the Meet Now functionality that you're on the screen now. In essence, you would use this to start that call. I wouldn't go into it, Dougie, because it would kill the connection. But within that Meet Now, you're able to start the video chat, and you're able to drag then people into the call as you require. The next question in the list is there any max file sizes in the documents in Teams? Could you run a 100 megabyte PowerPoint file effectively? So I could probably answer that one. There isn't any real limitations. It depends on obviously the speed of your internet, but a 100 megabyte PowerPoint file is very, very small. If you were perhaps looking at gigabyte size files that are like CAD and drawing files, you'd have an issue. But as Dougie showed, you can use the synchronizing function to sync down to your PC, and a 100 megabyte file would work perfectly fine.
Yep.
Another question for you, Dougie. Will pre-existing documents, i.e. Excel spreadsheets, allow co-authoring if they are migrated into Teams?
Yes, as long as they are the sort of the latest file format. So as long as they're sort of like .xlst, XLSX, you will be able to use those in there. Yeah.
Okay. Can you assign documents to a template after they've been created? So perhaps within the team itself on the section, if you go to Files, Dougie, there is a section, and within there we have the ability to click New, and there's a list of default templates that Microsoft provide. It is actually possible to overwrite those with something called content types. So if you had your own templates you wanted to put in there, that would be feasible, but probably too difficult to explain within the scope of this call. But if you were to look, you could find around content types or give us a shout and we could help you out. Can you limit the number of co-authors of the document in Teams? So that isn't possible. You can co-author or you cannot co-author. So if you enable that feature, everyone who goes into the document will be able to do it. Another question for yourself, Dougie. When syncing, will documents be synced both ways? Will it automatically update the latest version?
It will do, yes. So when you're working in the team or when you're working in sort of File Explorer, it's technically the exact same document. If you're online, it's going to be pushing it backwards and forwards. So yeah, it's very critical to understand that they are the exact same document. You're just accessing the exact same document in two different ways.
Okay. Are there permissions within Teams? Can you prevent some users from deleting documents?
So cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so by default, members have the ability to edit everything that exists within there, but it is possible within the back end of SharePoint to change those permissions. Also, Dougie's perhaps going to show some of the settings where we can change who can post into Teams, but not within there is the files. So we can actually change the files on who can edit those, and we can make sure that only certain people can update them. So that is possible, but again, perhaps get in touch and we can show you that functionality.
Yep.
One for yourself, Dougie. How do I view a file from the same? How do I view the same file from 2 or more different teams or channels? So I think what they're asking is perhaps to show them how to create a link, and that link can exist in one team, but you could then post it into a different team.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways that you could achieve that. So if you open up a document, so I'll just click on open this in the browser. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this. If we were doing it as a sort of a one-off, one way to do it would be to open up the document, click on share, and then we can copy a link to that document, and then we could post that inside of our team. Just go to a different team and sort of post it in that kind of way. You can post a link like this.
So the sharing would allow you to collaborate between a document in multiple teams by doing that.
Yes.
Thank you, Dougie. Can we set a different status for internal and external users? So when we actually add a new user to a team, you have the ability to rename that user. So there's not possible to automatically do that, but perhaps when you're sharing it, you can give the user, like when we do it, we put in brackets guest user or external user. So it is possible, but it's when you're inviting that user, you'd rename them. Can you add third-party cloud storage, i.e. Dropbox, Dougie?
Yeah, so when you go into your files area here, you can see you can also add cloud storage. So when you click on add cloud storage, there's a number of different areas that you can sort of connect to, whether it be sort of Dropbox, Google Drive, things like that. And yeah, so if those already exist and you're in the process of moving them across into your teams, into SharePoint, then yeah, you can add different cloud storage.
Okay, thank you, Dougie. Where are the filed private chats stored? So I can pick this one up. The chats are stored in their own sort of Teams world. So if you do need to recover the Teams private chats, you can use the content search in the admin center. And you can also use retention labels if you want to protect that data. So again, that's something in the back end of the Microsoft 365 admin center where we're able to change those. Comments that are placed in Planner, are you able to show those in a post? So I think that's a simple no, isn't it, Dougie?
I don't believe that's possible, no.
Cool. Can you change the type of a Microsoft team from a private to a public? So yes, that is possible. You would need to do that again in the admin center. You can go into the Teams admin center and to manage teams. And from there, you have the ability to change it from a private to a public or vice versa. Can you add a person out of a team to a channel? So I guess they're saying, can we have someone in a channel, but not in the rest of the team? So that is not possible. If they're a member of the team, then they if they want to be a part of a channel, they have to be a member of the team. So we can create a private channel, which only certain people have access to that channel. But ultimately, we can't have somebody who's in a private channel that isn't in the main team. It doesn't work that way. You have to be part of the team. So that kind of wraps up the questions. So thank you very much, Dougie. That was an excellent overview of the Microsoft Teams. Just for anybody that's still with us, I've posted the link to the training form in again. So if you would please provide feedback, that will help us improve our sessions. And if you'd like to get in touch about the remote workshops, then use hello@valto.co.uk. And please sign up for our next webinar, where we'll be covering a whole host of tools from Microsoft 365, including SharePoint, Teams, and some other pieces that will help with security. So hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Thank you all. See you now.
Thanks, guys.